Good evening, children. During our last class, we had discussed about the procedure for test tube baby or the IVF ET in detail. Today, we'll continue with our new topic, detection of fetal disorders during early pregnancy, or we also call it as prenatal diagnosis, which means diagnosis of some congenital defects before birth. Prenatal means before birth of the child. Now, sometimes there are possibilities of chromosomal abnormalities or genetic defects in the developing child, and these can be successfully diagnosed as early as 10 to 14 weeks of pregnancy time, and there are various techniques that help in this. First is amniocentesis, second CVS or chorionic villi sampling, third ultrasonography, and fourth fetoscopy, right? So the aim of all these techniques is to detect any abnormalities in the child that is developing within the chromosomal structure or the genetic defects, and if diagnosed that there is some problem and the child to be born may have some genetic defects, then the child may be aborted. Alright, so these techniques we are going to study in detail. Let us start the first one, that is amniocentesis. First, I'd like to show you the picture of amniocentesis. See, this is the child that is developing in the mother's womb and bathing in the amnion, that is amniotic cavity that is filled with the amniotic fluid. Now, during this technique, a syringe or injection is inserted, and through aspiration, that is sucking out of a little portion of amniotic fluid is done, and with the help of this fluid that is collected, some fetal cells are now collected. They can be now cultured and tested for any abnormalities. So let us do it now in steps. Amniocentesis, this is by definition what we call as aspiration, that is sucking out or drawing out of amniotic fluid that is surrounding the fetus. Now, this is used to detect sex-related abnormalities or congenital defects or syndromes, and the defects can be something like this here, to detect abnormalities like sickle cell anemia, thalassemia, phenylketonuria, we also call it as PKU, and alkaptonuria, right? So amniocentesis can be used to diagnose by any of these steps. Let us see how it is done. First, sonography is done to detect or locate the fetus. That is, what exactly is the position of the fetus. And what we use here is high frequency ultrasound waves, right? Now, a fine syringe is passed through the amniotic cavity. Just now I showed you how, and this is done around 14th to 15th week of pregnancy. And a small amount of amniotic fluid is withdrawn by aspiration, which contains the skin cells of the fetus and a number of proteins or enzymes. These cells are cultured in vitro. Again and again these terms are coming, which means in glass, for the examination, right? Now, this is very simple. Once again, if you see this, look at this. The syringe is inserted into the amniotic fluid and which is sucked out later. The cells of the baby that is developing, they're cultured and they are tested to find out the abnormality. Now, there is a drawback of this technology, children, that this can be misused for sex determination, because by studying the cells over here, the gender of the child can be studied. Right, the experts can come to know whether the child developing is a male or a female child, and then, however, the abortion at this stage is really risky. 14 to 15. You remember I told you MTP last time that it's done in the first trimester up to 12th week. But here, when this is done at 14th to 15th week, the abortion is risky. Right? So there are a number of acts or prevention laws that can be used in a successful way. Coming to another technique, we call it as CVS, that is chorionic villi sampling, right? Now, chorion, what is it? Let us first see. I'll remind you of a diagram, children, in class 10th book this is. And let us see what is the chorion. Chorion is the layer or the outermost membrane that you can see here, which is surrounding the embryo of the mammal, that is a child in this case. But the term chorion is also used for the outermost membrane that is surrounding the embryo of a reptile or a bird or a mammal, right? So we can say it's a protective membrane for the embryo, and this contributes to the development of placenta. You can see the placenta here, right? So this placenta that is formed, chorion has a role in the formation. Now what is done, children, in chorionic villi sampling, as we have to study? First let us see when is this done. If this was done at 14th or 15th week, that is amniocentesis, then CVS is done at little early stage, 8th to 10th week of pregnancy. Now what is the procedure for this? The procedure is, first step is, small amount of fetal tissue is drawn from the chorionic villi of placenta. That is from this area, the chorionic villi. Villi means these finger-like structures that are making this membrane. A little amount of fetal tissue is drawn out. And then second step, the very cells, they are cultured. And the third step is that they are used for karyotyping, that is to find out the chromosomal abnormalities. Now this step has a number of advantages. First is that it makes the chromosomal disorders quick and easy. That is, a study of the chromosomal disorders very quick and easy, because the results of karyotyping are available within few hours. So the doctors, they come to know through this within a few hours about any possible defects, right? Third advantage is that the disease, the genetic disorder thalassemia, can be detected by this method. Thalassemia is a very severe disorder, children, in which the hemoglobin, which is supposed to be oxygen carrying pigment, is very less along with few RBCs. So such children born with the defect, they do not survive for a long time, right? And there's a costly treatment of blood transfusion, etc. So this can be detected by this method of CVS. Now, what is the risk involved? CVS is an invasive technique. Invasive means this has a risk over the child that is developing to be injured, and also for the mother. So there is a risk for the fetus or the mother's tissue getting injured, right? So what do the doctors do? Nowadays, the doctors, because they know that carrying out CVS has a problem of risk for injuring the life of child as well as mother's tissues, so they use an alternative. What do? Let us see. They will use the mother's blood. They will collect the mother's blood, and out of the blood they will select the fetal cells by using specific antibodies. Now antibodies, they will bind to proteins present only on the fetal cells. These cells are then used to find out the genetic disorders. So this is like an alternative to CVS, because it's an invasive method or an invasive technique to study the defect. The doctors are using simple technique of just collecting mother's blood, a sample, and then selecting the fetal cells. And how did use? Through the antibodies which bind to the specific proteins, and then they find out the disorders. So that was CVS. So two techniques we have discussed, children. Amniocentesis we have done, and CVS or chorionic villi sampling. Coming to the third method is ultrasonography. This has an advantage because it is a non-invasive technique. Right? This is a non-invasive technique. That means this has no risk over the fetus or the child or the mother's tissues that are to be studied. Now in this, what is done is, let us see, ultrasonography, a non-invasive technique. In this technique, the ultrasound imaging is done. Ultrasound imaging is done to determine three things. Number one, general condition, then position of the fetus in womb, and the amount of amniotic fluid, that is it sufficient or not in the amniotic sac. And how is it done? By ultrasound imaging. So only this you have to study, very little under ultrasonography, which is totally non-invasive technique. And coming to the last technique to study the prenatal diagnosis is fetoscopy. This is more or less a very direct method. Fetoscopy is a technique in which fetus is viewed directly by introducing a needle thin tube with a viewing scope into the uterus to detect any defects. That is, the doctors directly, instead of using the blood or the tissues through chorion or the amniotic fluid, these were like indirect method, children. Here the amniotic fluid was studied, here the chorion was studied, right? But here fetoscopy is when directly through a viewing scope which is inserted into the uterus, the fetus is studied for any abnormality or the defect. So with that we complete the detection of fetal disorders by prenatal diagnosis. So very simple thing, children. You only have to study these 4 things that complete the diagnosis. Now coming to our last topic for this lesson, children, that is chapter number 3, reproductive health. We have the only topic remaining here is sexually transmitted diseases, what we call as STDs, also known as venereal diseases or VDs, or RTIs, that is reproductive tract infections. Right. Now what are STDs, children? These are those diseases which are transmitted through sexual intercourse with the infected persons. Alright. What are the diseases? There are 9 diseases to be studied in detail in your course, children. Syphilis, gonorrhea, AIDS, genital herpes, chancroid, chlamydiasis, trichomoniasis, genital warts, and hepatitis B. I'm sure you've heard of some names in these. Now what we have done is, through this table, children, the most deadly, before we begin with all one after the other, let us see out of these 9 sexually transmitted diseases, which is the most deadly. I have colored it with red color, the sign of danger. This is AIDS and genital herpes. Why is it deadly? Because till now there is no cure. These 2 are totally incurable and most dangerous diseases of all sexually transmitted diseases. That is, through all of these that we are talking, right? These are the only 2 ones that they have no cure, AIDS and genital herpes. Whereas the others, if diagnosed early or if treated properly, they are fully curable, right? So I again repeat, these 2 are incurable, whereas the others, if they are detected early or treated properly, they have cure, some or the other. They can be completely cured, right? Now, coming to the second more important thing is, some of them are caused by bacterium, some are viral, and some by protozoan. So I have used different colors. Virus is here in orange color. So only 4 viral diseases out of these 9. AIDS by HIV virus, genital herpes by virus herpes simplex, then genital warts by virus HPV. If you remember, I have given you this already, human papilloma virus, and hepatitis B is also viral disorder. Then only one is protozoan disease, that is trichomoniasis, which is caused by protozoan Trichomonas vaginalis, and the rest are all bacterial, children. Like syphilis is caused due to bacterium Treponema pallidum. Gonorrhea is caused by bacterium Neisseria gonorrhoeae. Then chancroid is caused by a bacterium called Haemophilus ducreyi, and chlamydiasis is caused by a bacterium Chlamydia trachomatis, right? So first thing is, you must learn that what is the causative agent. Is it a bacterium or a virus or a protozoan, and complete names with correct spellings and underlining, because you have to follow the biological nomenclature. Now herein we'll move further one after the other with the defects. The first thing, I like to introduce some terms, children, before we move to the details, right? Like syphilis is seen in children also by birth. So in that case, you'll call it as congenital syphilis when it is transmitted from mother to child. Then this I have already told you that except AIDS and genital herpes, all other are completely curable if treated early or detected early or treated properly. Now, infected females of all these diseases, they're generally asymptomatic. Asymptomatic means they will not show any visible signs or symptoms. All right, and they may remain undetected for very long. So females will not show any signs of symptoms and they may go undetected for very long. Then STDs have a very high probability in age group 15 to 24 years. This age group people, they are more susceptible or vulnerable to the STDs. Now let us see some 10 technical terms and their meanings. The first meaning of a term, dysuria. Dysuria is a condition seen in genital herpes, which means painful or difficulty in urination. Right? Urination is painful or with a lot of difficulty. We call this as dysuria. Second is malaise. Again, a term used in genital herpes. This means general discomfort and uneasiness. Then third is a spirochete bacterium. The word spirochete is a new word and this means flexible and spirally twisted bacterium. This is seen in syphilis. Then another word called mucopurulent, which means with yellowish mucus and pus, and this is seen in, the term is used in chlamydiasis. Another word we'll call urethritis. All the terms usually with itis at the end, children, they mean inflammation. For example, urethritis means inflammation of urethra. Another word, prostatitis. This is rhyming with the prostate gland. So this is the swelling or inflammation of prostate gland in men. This is one of the accessory glands if you remember. Then epididymitis. Again, this is the inflammation. I told you itis means inflammation of epididymis in males. Cervix. This is the lower end of uterus in females. Retrovirus is an RNA virus, especially the one that codes for DNA through reverse transcription. Example, HIV. And asymptomatic, I have already told you, it means no visible signs or symptoms. So that was the technical introduction of these terms, children. Let us see what all things we have done till now before we move further. I have introduced 4 techniques for prenatal diagnosis, right? The details of the same, children. And now we are talking of the STDs, 9 in your course, and all in detail we are going to start. Let us start with syphilis. Syphilis, I am using your textbook details, children. I hope you can clearly read this. Syphilis, just now I told you, children, it's caused due to bacterium called Treponema pallidum. Alright. Now in this, there are 3 stages. The disease has 3 stages. First is when the stage is very painless, ulcer or canker, right, on the genitalia, that is the reproductive openings, mouth or anus, etc. And second stage is there are lesions on the lips, mouth and the genitalia, whereas the third stage is that the ulcers appear on palate, nose and lower legs, right? And they can be paralysis, they can be brain damage, blindness, heart trouble, or even aortic, that is the aorta, the largest of artery, impairment, right? So it's a very dangerous disease and transmission is from sexual contact with the infected person or from mother to child. Incubation period is around 10 to 90 days, that is from 10 days to roughly 3 months. And the drugs that are used to control, as I told you, this is fully curable if detected properly and at the right time and treated properly. So what is the treatment? Penicillin and tetracycline are the effective drugs that are used for the treatment. And in children that are born with this defect, it is called as congenital syphilis because it's being given from the mother to the child. Alright, so that was about syphilis. Coming to gonorrhea, children, the second defect, this is caused also by a bacterium, but the name is Neisseria gonorrhoeae. And in this, the symptoms are that the bacterium lives in the genital ducts producing pus-like discharge. So here gonorrhea, we'll write in the bracket, the characteristic is, most important characteristic that it shows is pus-like discharge in the genital ducts, pain in the genitalia, with a burning urination, right? And also it can lead to arthritis and eye infection. Transmission through sexual contact, use of common toilets, and the innerwear. Treatment is penicillin and ampicillin that can fully cure this disease. Coming to the third defect, AIDS, we'll talk about the virus first, HIV, that is human immunodeficiency virus. Symptoms of AIDS are fever, lethargy, pharyngitis. Pharyngitis means inflammation or swelling of pharynx, which causes a sore throat, right? Then weight loss, nausea, headache, and rashes. HIV attacks the helper T lymphocytes, and the patient's immune system becomes very, very deficient or weak, because now he is open to attack by any of the germs around him. How is AIDS transmitted? Through blood transfusion and sexual contact, and also from mother to child. Treatment, there is no cure till now, but there are drugs that can prolong the life of AIDS patients. For example, AZT, that is zidovudine, and didanosine. These are the drugs that are used to treat AIDS. Coming to the fourth one, another most deadly apart with AIDS. If AIDS has no cure, then this also has no cure. Genital herpes, caused by the virus called as herpes simplex. Symptoms are vesiculopustular lesions, which means mixed eruptions or rashes in the form of vesicles or pustules, that is some kind of protuberance. There are clusters of reddish ulcers over genitalia and perianal areas, swelling of lymph nodes, pain and vaginal urethral discharge, dysuria, which means a painful or difficulty in urination, headache and malaise, that is general discomfort and uneasiness. Transmission is through genital secretions and contact with the viroids, and also through intercourse. Medicines, acyclovir, valacyclovir, or famciclovir, right? So famciclovir, this is the right pronunciation. That has to study up till that has to be curing the that has to control this. We can't say cure because this is truly incurable. Coming to chancroid, which is caused by a bacterium. Just now we've studied by the bacterium called as Haemophilus ducreyi. Here there is painful bleeding ulcer that develops over the genitalia, accompanied by the swelling of lymph nodes. Transmission is by sexual contact with the infected person, and the drugs that are used to cure this disease are erythromycin, ciprofloxacin, ceftriaxone, trimethoprim, and sulfamethoxazole. Now you don't have to learn, children, every term. You can learn one or two drugs and that's all. Coming next to chlamydiasis, which is caused by a bacterium called Chlamydia trachomatis. This is seen in the semen and vaginal fluid. It infects the cervix and the urethra and can also live in rectum or in the throat. Symptoms, it causes trachoma, a disease of eye, and perinatal infection. The pathogen is an obligate intracellular pathogen. Obligate means strictly intracellular, that will live inside the cell, and causes urethritis, epididymitis, mucopurulent, which means yellow mucus and pus is there, cervicitis, that means inflammation of the cervix, then fallopian tubes, they get inflamed, rectal pain, and occasional bleeding. Then often there are no symptoms early, but later on there are stages that are seen. That is symptoms in men. There are red sores, itching or burning of the reproductive organs, and in women there are mucus-like discharge and also burning sensation during urination with abdominal pain. Transmission by sexual contact with the infected partner, and antibiotics, tetracycline, erythromycin, rifampicin, etc. Coming next to the seventh sexually transmitted disease is trichomoniasis, which is caused by the protozoan. This is the only one which is caused by protozoan, children, and this protozoan is Trichomonas vaginalis. This infects both males and females, causing, in males it causes urethritis, epididymitis and prostatitis, right? Whereas in females it causes vaginitis with foul smell and vaginal discharge with burning sensation. Transmission by sexual intercourse with the infected person, and treatment is metronidazole. Coming next to genital warts, the second last defect that or STD that you have to study, and this is caused by the virus called human papilloma virus. This causes pain or discomfort and itching, and especially dangerous this is in women because this also can cause cancer of cervix and the vulva. Cervical cancer, which is very commonly heard nowadays, is also possible due to HPV. Now, symptoms, when we talk, more than 70 different types of HPV, they affect the genitals, and most of the time their infection produces no symptoms. That means they are asymptomatic, and the infection clears off its own after the viral cycle is completed by some infections. Genital warts appear as clusters of skin colored lesions on the reproductive organs, and in women these warts, they appear inside or outside the reproductive area. Genital warts, they cause itching, bleeding or burning or some discharge. Transmission by sexual contact with the infected person, and treatment, virus cannot be eliminated from the blood. Yet we have antiviral drugs that can be used to control repeated outbreaks. Then topical preparation can help in healing the warts. Cream, gel, solutions, they provide immediate comfort, and warts may disappear but not the virus. So this is another danger sign that virus will always be in the body and will never disappear. Coming to the hepatitis B, this is a viral disease and that infects the liver and can cause both acute and chronic liver hepatitis. Incubation period is 1 to 6 months, and the infected person shows onset of symptoms for several weeks. What are the symptoms? Headache, fever, jaundice like yellowing of skin, eyes, dark urine, extreme fatigue, that is tiredness, nausea, vomiting and abdominal pain. In acute hepatitis, infection may lead to liver cirrhosis or even cancer. Transmission by infected blood and various body fluids like saliva, etc. Virus spreads through reuse of injection needles and syringes, through blood transfusion and sexual contact. In children, it also spreads from mother to the child at birth. Prevention, it can be prevented by hepatitis B vaccine to the infant within 24 hours after the birth, followed by 3-dose schedule of hepatitis B vaccine, and the best known treatment of disease is used of genetically engineered interferon injections. Alright, and here again AIDS is repeated. See in your textbook, children, AIDS is given at 2 places, number 3 also and number 10 also. So that is why we will not say there are 10 diseases in your course, there are only 9. So AIDS is a retrovirus, we have already told you, RNA virus, that is HIV, that damages the T4 cells, that is the T lymphocyte cells, and breaks down the total immune system of the body. ARC means AIDS related complex, which develops in about 25% HIV infected people. Symptoms include loss of appetite, weight, cough, fever, pneumonia, lymphoma, tuberculosis or severe diarrhea. The virus remains dormant for about 6 years after the infection. Transmission, it is a blood-borne disease through sexual intercourse or through the use of syringe that is already infected for intravenous injection, right? Or from mother to baby through the placenta or even through the breast milk. That is through feeding also the children may get AIDS. Treatment and prevention, this is not curable at all. This has no cure till date, But there are drugs which can control the disease and make the life of patient a little longer. Azithromycin, AZT, ribavirin, zalcitabine, and glycyrrhizin. They are drugs being tried against AIDS. But the best solution is to improve or strengthen the damaged immune system. So that completes all the 9 diseases, and here we come to the end of the chapter. At the end, children, there's a table here in your textbook, page number 168, which includes some important STDs, their causal agents, and some techniques for detection. These are totally familiar names because you've studied all 7 diseases. The causal agents are also given, we have studied just now. But here, this is the new part, the detection technique. So please go through detection techniques. You should be aware of the terms that are given, like VDRL, it's a Venereal Disease Research Laboratory, ELISA PCR, which is a test for AIDS, Gram staining of discharge, right? That's a test for this bacteria, for gonorrhea. Then PCR, etc. That is, PCR means polymerase chain reaction, which is used for genital herpes, DNA amplification for chancroid, then clinical Gram staining of discharge for chlamydiasis, and microscopic examination or the culture method for trichomoniasis. So just be aware of these abbreviations, etc. So herewith we complete our 3rd chapter, that is the reproductive health, children. And with all the notes that I have given, please compile up your notes at one place. Keep going through. The chapter is really simple, easy to understand, and important with the terms for diseases or many methods for contraception, etc. Now what we will do is, please keep revising your notes, compile them at one place the way we have studied them, right? And I'll be sending you some practice questions, children. Keep solving them time to time. And after this, we'll be starting with our 4th chapter next time, and this will be microbes in human welfare. Thank you.